It's my pleasure to now introduce Mr. Oliver Horn, who is the Global CEO of Elixinol Wellness. Elixinol Wellness is a global leader in the hemp industry, innovating, marketing and selling hemp-derived nutraceuticals, cosmetic and food products. The company has two core brands. It's Elixinol branded CBD nutraceutical business and also Hemp Foods Australia, which is one of Australia's most established hemp foods brands. Oliver has extensive experience in building premium global consumer brands, a deep knowledge of the vitamins, minerals and supplements category, and a passion for creating businesses with a positive and thriving workplace culture. So I'd like to now hand over to Oliver, who will tell us more about Elixinol Wellness and how the company has evolved over the past 12 months to adapt to changing needs and to its consumers. And we'll get the screen share going. Over to you, Oliver. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the really warm introduction, Jane. Really appreciate the time, and hello to everybody in the audience, and hope you're all safe after the earthquake in Melbourne that we just had 6 points on the Richter scale. So a bit scary this morning. So I hope everybody is doing well. Can everybody see the screen, Jane?
Yes, they can. Thanks, Oliver.
Fantastic. So look, true to today's theme of addressing evolving consumer needs, I'd like to share my perspective of how companies like Elixinol Wellness are responding to the global macro consumer trends for natural and plant-based food and nutraceutical products. If you can please go to the next slide. Thank you. And as Jane outlined, we are a very well-established it's a company, a global wellness company built around the goodness of hemp. And we have two brands, as Jane mentioned, Elixinol, based in Colorado, really our strongest brand there in the US, established in 2014, and Hemp Foods Australia, established almost more than 20 years ago and based in Byron Bay. Both of those companies are fundamentally based around hemp, and we're producing nutraceutical products as well as hemp food products. Next slide, please. Our vision as a business is to create a healthier everyday life through the power of hemp and plant-based products. And I like to particularly focus on why that is such a big macro consumer trend. And our purpose really that we come to work for every day is to change lives naturally. So really harness the power of nature and plants to create the best wellness solutions for our consumers. Next page. And the question is why hemp, and why have we built, for over 2 decades, our business around hemp? And hemp is just an incredible powerhouse of a plant. It is a highly sustainable plant. You can use every single aspect of the plant and has incredibly powerful health and well-being benefits. Most importantly to us is it's a very sustainable product to grow, actually. It uses very little water, hardly uses herbicides or pesticides. It's very gentle on the environment. It's a huge carbon trap. It's incredibly fast growing, faster than bamboo. So every aspect of the plant that we source, whether it's our food products from or our nutraceutical products from, can be used and is entirely gentle on, on the environment. Next slide. And one of the aspects that is really dear to us is our Hemp Foods Australia business. As we mentioned, it's 20 years old. It was established before hemp was actually legalized in Australia as a food in 2017. So we have almost 8 years head start of when it became legal. And the rise in vegan and vegetarian and flexitarian diets across the world, and in fact here in Australia, is undeniable one of those global macro trends. 20% of Australians are now defined as flexitarians, so they're reducing their meat intake, and 20% of really strong meat eaters have reduced their meat consumptions for either health benefits or environmental reasons. And hemp has really become a core part of these people's diets because it is really high in protein. It is very high in omega-3, 6, and 9s, minerals, vitamins, oxidants, antioxidants, but importantly, it's only very easy to digest, free from GMO, free from dairy, soy, and from gluten. So it makes it really a powerful ingredient for all kinds of nutritional and food solutions. And that is certainly a consumer trend that is giving us huge tailwinds as a business, as more and more consumers are following plant-based diets. Next slide. The second aspect of our business is the nutraceutical business, and that is the CBD business. And what our secret sauce is in the industry is not only that we have decades of experience here and a first mover, particularly in the US with a very strong consumer brands, but we really understand the science behind CBD and are blending CBD products with other nutraceuticals that have enhanced health benefits and on which we can make health claims from. But just taking a step back, what is actually CBD and what is hemp CBD in particular? Hemp CBD is really, or CBD is an acronym for cannabinol, which interacts with the body's natural endocannabinoid system and has really numerous health benefits. It's often used to support pain relief and as a treatment for depression, anxiety, PTSD, insomnia, and epilepsy. And hemp CBD is naturally low in THC, which is a psychoactive chemical responsible for creating the high usually associated with marijuana. And CBD has been declared by the World Health Organization as generally safe for consumption, and the United Nations descheduled it from the drug schedule as well. So an incredibly powerful component, and we have a product range of over 30 products. We just today launched our pet range, Pet for CBD, which is an incredible new range that we've just launched. So a wide range of application and working with your natural endocannabinoid system that is found in the body. Next slide. So taking a step back from us, giving you an understanding on what our product portfolio really looks like. Elixinol Wellness and all of our product portfolio is extremely well positioned against those 6 global macro trends that have been defined by McKinsey in their most recent study. And in particular, our CBD products and nutraceutical products are really well positioned, to help consumers deal with the stresses of life, not only physical, but also mental. In an always-on society where sleep, anxiety, depression are really big factors, CBD can really make a meaningful contribution. So we are extremely well positioned, not only with our food products, which is quite obvious in how they contribute to consumers' health, but also with our CBD products. And I like to point to the picture here of Chris Hemsworth. He was photographed buying our hemp seeds in a Byron Bay hemp food store, and I think it's a great visual testament, and proof that even the fittest specimen is using hemp seeds in our products, and we haven't paid for that sponsorship. Next page, please. And all these trends that have been outlined by McKinsey are really reflecting in the industry's growth outlook. And you see on the left-hand side here, the growth outlook as suggested by Brightfield, that is the eminent research institution across the world for the CBD market, and which is predicting really high double-digit CAGR growth over the foreseeable future. In the US, arguably the biggest market, growing to $14 billion by 2025, 28% CAGR. And in the UK, the biggest European market, expecting 32% CAGR. Also very important is that the regulatory environment for CBD products and hemp-derived products is rapidly improving, and regulation is progressing across the world, really favoring CBD and giving access to more consumers across the world to those really powerful nutraceutical products. Next slide. So on the backdrop of those macro consumer trends and our portfolio and how well it is positioned, we have been really pivoting our business and going through a massive transformation agenda, as Jane mentioned that. We've not only responded to the COVID environment that we all operated in, but more importantly also to a really consolidation of the CBD industry in the US, where we derive half of our revenues from. And what we have done over the last 18 months is really creating a consumer products portfolio that is firmly based in food and nutraceutical products. We've shedded bulk and private label and low value activities of our business, and significantly reduced the cost of doing business, reducing costs by almost $8 million in the first half versus the first half last year. We improved our margins significantly. Our margins as a group are now 52% average, versus 37% in the previously corresponding period. And most importantly, coming out of that COVID environment, we've seen growth in our key business units, Hemp Foods Australia here in Australia, with 19% in the second quarter of the calendar year this year, and the US starting to return to growth with 4%. So really an incredible journey that we've been going through, responding to a CBD consolidation in the US market, responding to COVID, and creating an extremely flourishing business. Next page, please. And this gives you a snapshot of our first year financials. You can see how our EBITDA position is steadily improving, is absolutely on the right trajectory. That is despite our revenues having declined from 7.9 to 4.8 because largely out of the CBD consolidation and COVID impacts in the US, but also exiting bulk and low profit parts of the portfolio. But you can definitely see that we are on a turnaround trajectory, which is very clear. Our cost base is 44% reduced. And something that we are extremely proud of is that we remain extremely well funded. We have $90 million cash in the bank that gives us more than 6 quarters runway on the current cash utilization, but we know that the outlook is more positive than that as we're planning for business improvement in the second half of this calendar year for sure. Next page, please. And this is one of the last slides, is our financial summary really, and you can see how despite a revenue decline that I outlined before, our profits have only declined by 15 or 16% to $2.5 million in the first half of the year at a very high margin of 52%. And that's certainly a margin that we're striving to maintain as we grow the business and as we grow the top line. And you can see our EBITDA result actually improving by 53% as a consequence of all those measures. So really working at our e-commerce strategy, investing heavily in new product launches, and that drives profitability, taking cost out, bringing new capability into the teams, and just managing cash with an iron fist, and the results they are right in front of you with a 53% EBITDA improvement. Next page, please. So in summary, I think you can see that businesses like ours who are positioning themselves in the wellness category have a huge role to play in improving consumers' health around the world. Us as a business, Elixinol Wellness, pivoting really to a consumer products business, have been going through an incredible transformation period. And now we are well positioned as a global leader in nutraceuticals, in CBD and in hemp foods across the US and in Australia to play a leading role into those growing segments and serving those consumer trends. The economic outlook certainly is improving with COVID vaccination rates reaching critical levels now that economies have opened up and continue to open up. And importantly, our newfound capability, in particular in e-commerce, where we see now the majority of our growth coming from, particularly in the US, is accelerating quite nicely as well and driving growth as well as profitability. We also have a huge innovation pipeline coming out. As a matter of fact, as I mentioned today, we're launching our pet wellness range, and that is a great growth catalyst for us over the next couple of months and actually in the year ahead. And lastly, our $19 million of cash in the bank are a really good position to invest from, and fuel our future growth from. So that's really a bit of a summary on Elixinol Wellness, and very happy to take your questions now. Thank you.
Thanks for an excellent presentation, Oliver. So just a reminder, if you would like to ask a question, please use the Q&A function in the Zoom ribbon at the bottom of your screen. Thanks for all those who have submitted questions so far. So first one to kick off with, what do you see as being the future growth drivers for Elixinol, Oliver? Do you see more organic or inorganic opportunities driving that future for you?
Yeah, look, we're planning for both. A really good question, because growth has been hard to come by in a COVID environment. And one of the things is that we invested into a global R&D capability. We recruited a global head of R&D and innovation. She has a PhD from Swinburne University, 10 years with Nestle. And we've been working over the last 4 months on incredibly new growth initiatives in the innovation space. So we're launching in the US actually 1 product every week to the rest of the year. So that's 12 products that are coming out new. So that's exciting. Hemp Foods Australia, we're completely rebranding, and we're launching new products, particularly in the protein space and meal replenishment space. So lots of innovation coming out. And then obviously pet, which I just mentioned, and THC-free products as well for those consumers who get afraid of getting tested, policemen, frontline people, soldiers, etc. So lots of NPD, that's one growth catalyst. The second big one is for us, we're just stepping up our e-commerce capability. We're launching a new platform, loyalty schemes, subscription schemes, mobile optimization, and that in itself will drive growth for us. And then the third one for us is we're looking at M&A quite actively, particularly here in the Australian market, complementing our Hemp Foods Australia business, which we believe has a very strong position in the market, and we can utilize the assets and the capability that we have here locally in Australia, certainly to grow our business that way.
Terrific, thank you. One thing you mentioned there was THC free. How much of an issue is THC free versus standard CBD?
Look, standard CBD, the regulation is it can only have less than 0.3% of THC. And so it's, there's no issue consumers. You're not going to get high. You're not going to have side effects from THC. It's not on a consumer front. It's not an issue, and it's so highly regulated. And we independently verify that the THC levels in CBD products that come from hemp are not an issue. However, there are consumers out there who are overly cautious, and they want no current THC and zero THC. And in a lot of regulatory environments, actually, it is required to have zero THC as well. And we certainly see in the UK at the moment the market turning to isolates, which are zero THC. And so we have to be prepared to play in both segments. Now, what I like to say is CBD that we predominantly use is full spectrum, which is a completely natural product. And has all the goodness of a full spectrum product that has a lot of components in there. A lot of the THC-free products or THC-free products are isolates, which are very linear in their composition and don't have this entourage effect of many active components that help your well-being. So we believe that full spectrum with low THC are having much better health benefits.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Okay, so next question here is about innovation plans. So can you tell us about your innovation plans and what product categories you will be focused on?
Yeah, so we going to pursue an active strategy in the US to diversify out of human digestible CBD. We see that as a very consolidated category, and the consolidation is happening right here, right now. And that gives us headwinds. And so the pet move that we are now doing is the start of that, but we're going to be moving much more into topical CBD products, beauty products. And that is one part of the category diversification. So I like to see our US business being strong in at least 3 differentiated product categories, and that's certainly what we're pursuing in the US. In Australia, we've been really at hemp ingredients products, so hemp seeds, hemp oils, hemp proteins. And we're going to be diversifying, particularly into snacks. We see healthy snacking as a huge opportunity, but then we're also diversifying our channels, and we're going to be moving very aggressively into the food services channel because hemp is a great product for food services, in all kinds of kitchens and applications around Australia, and we're working on solutions for that as well.
Excellent. That's very interesting, actually, the food services channel. Are you prepared to sort of talk any more about the applications as you see them?
Yeah, absolutely. We've created a bit of an exciting IP. We invested in the new machinery and a bit of capital expenditure, very on a minimal level, to create a new paste. Which is, think about it as, when you have your almond croissant, the almond filling croissant, we've created a hemp version of that, and that we're now commercializing. We're working with a number of manufacturers already on seeing how they can use it in baking, in drink products, because it's a paste that you can dissolve in milk. You can use it in baking, and that's really exciting because it gets hemp into drinks and baking products and treats, etc. You can pretty much use it anywhere. So that's a great new technology. It's a cream, extremely fine. It's so fine, the structure, that you can actually tube feed patients in hospitals with it. That's how fine it is, and so we're pretty proud of that. So that's one of the applications, and then we are actively partnering or in discussions with a company who is supplying the biggest Australian food service provider with products, and we're looking to develop product solutions for specific areas in the food service industry.
Excellent. It's very exciting. Thank you. Okay, so question here on HFA. So I know HFA was up for sale last year. What role does it play in the global portfolio now?
Yes, it's an incredibly important role. I'm glad we didn't sell it. It's now 44% of our revenues, almost half of our revenues. It's effectively break even, and beautifully positioned as the strongest hemp foods brand in Australia. So it plays for us a really strategic role. I think we underestimated that 2 years ago when we put it on the market, on how that trend actually materializes. And we're actually using it as a platform for growth. So it's become from something that we wanted to divest 2 years ago to something that is now fundamental to our growth and diversifies our portfolio nicely, where we have CBD, which is consolidated and seeing a bit of headwinds in the US, and then something which is really a lot of clear space to grow with our hemp foods offering.
Thank you. Okay, so just a question here on finding products. So if I'm looking for your, and I think you covered a bit of this in the presentation, but if I'm looking for your products in Australia, where would I find them?
Great question, because we just went into Woolworths. So as of the beginning of this week, our oils are now in Woolworths. We are in Costco with our proteins and our hemp seeds as well. We are at most Whole Food stores, really health food stores, at the local delis, IGAs. You can pretty much find us everywhere. And that's also a very good prompt. Our website, hempfoodsaustralia.com.au. All of our products, we have fantastic e-commerce capability. And as a matter of fact, I've got a promotional code for all listeners. Just type in IRD Invest into the discount or voucher area when you check out, and you get a special treat as a result. So that's up and running for you guys till the end of the month, really. IRD Invest, just type it in, hempfoodsaustralia.com.au.
That might be the first time we've ever had a discount code named after our conference, but I'm thrilled that you've done that. So thank you very much. Okay, so actually that was sort of a nice segue into, a question here around how do you balance more traditional advertising investment versus the investment that you make into e-commerce? Can you just talk about that?
In the US, we pretty much moved 100% into digital native. We want to become a digital native business, not necessarily digital first in terms of revenue, but digital native. Digital is our first port of call. So moved all of it there. Highly effective. Particularly the consumers who are very well informed about health and well-being. They're looking for information online. So 100% there. But here in Australia, it's the e-commerce component is still only 14 to 15% of our total revenue. So we're mixing it a bit more. Here it's much more point of sale, and close to where the consumer shops. So in-store customer marketing we've spent, but also a very large component on social media. So our Instagram is on fire at the moment. We're publishing content every day. Couple of times, and that's flourishing as well. So here in Australia, a bit of a balance.
Thank you. Okay, so we might now move to a question just around your cost base. And we've had a few similar ones, so I'm sort of amalgamating them. So is there a plan to further reduce costs?
Yes.
Right. Okay. And then the second part was, or are you banking on increasing revenue? So
no, we need to reduce cost further. We need to do both. We need to meet that intersection, and we have a couple of cost out initiatives that are continue to be progressing through the business. One of the biggest ones is we firmly want to be a capital light model. So we're closing down the last remnants of our supply chain in the US that will be finished in January at the beginning of the year. That releases a lot of cost and creates a lot of cost savings right there. But then we've also got other cost efficiencies that we're working towards. And rest assured, we haven't left any stone unturned, whether it's insurances, D&O insurances, leases. We actually exited some of our leases, our assets. We're pretty much removing ourselves out of all assets that we had in the balance sheets last year. So tangible assets, leases, land, etc. And that creates a continuously improving cost structure.
Great. Okay. That was my reminder. We're just about at time. So we might throw in one last question for you, Oliver, and then we'll give everybody a minute to stretch their legs before pure profile. So final question for you. How does the pet wellbeing range fit with the Elixinol strategy? Is there a decent market opportunity?
Yes, the strategy was really, that we mentioned before, it's diversification, and having not all eggs in one basket, and that's absolutely pivotal to our strategy. And we just launched at 2 o'clock today in the US time, so Colorado time, and I've checked the sales figures real time on our dashboard. And the wonderful thing to see is that our pet tincture is already the 3rd best-selling product of the day.
Wow.
And our chews for mobility, particularly older dogs have mobility problems. They are already at the number 8 and number 10 of our best-selling products, and we have a pretty decent portfolio. So as of the last 6 hours of sales, I'm pretty hopeful.
Well, that sure sounds like a pretty good start. So congratulations on that. Thank you once again to you for joining today and giving us your tailored presentation to how you're addressing evolving consumer needs. Very clearly, you're right in the thick of a segment that is right for that. So thank you, Oliver Horn, for your time today. Appreciate you coming along.
Thanks, Jane, for giving me the opportunity.